Hi everyone, and welcome to our special Camp Create bonfire. In tonight's activity, we are going to create a card featuring awesome ombre. So we're going to do a few different techniques that are going to achieve an ombre effect on our card designs. And we invite you to take part in this activity and link up a card in the blog post that I will have in the description down below. This is a separate activity from our main Camp Create event. This is just a fun bonus bonfire that we want to add a separate event that you can just take part in for a chance to win a gift card to the MFT online store. So like I mentioned, if you want to check out the description box below this video, there will be a link to the coordinating blog post where you can add your project. So to start off, I'm going to be using the So Much Cuteness stamp set for this project. I love these adorable pig images, and if you are familiar with MFT and kind of the behind the scenes, then you know that we have a fun little helper in our warehouse named Pebbles who likes to help out with packing orders, and I thought it would be really fun to have these cute little images to kind of honor that newest employee that we have at MFT Stamps. So what I'm doing is I'm coloring my little images in here with some Copic markers. Now I have pre-stamped all of these with some black licorice hybrid ink onto a piece of smooth white cardstock, and I'm using some various shades of pinks to add the color to these images. And when I'm doing my coloring, I'm creating an ombre effect on each of these little piggies. So I'm not going to include all of the images of the coloring, I just did the one there just to show you how I achieved that look. And I pretty much just started with my lightest color and completely saturated the whole image. And then I worked from the bottom to the top using the darkest and working my way up to the lightest. So I just kind of flicked that color on and added the darkest at the very bottom, went up with my second, then my third, and then my lightest at the very top just to completely even everything out and blend all that color together. And then once I'm done with that, we are left with these adorable little pig images, and we can use these on our card. So it's really quick and easy to be able to create an ombre look with markers, especially Copics, because they blend really nicely together. So now we're going to work on the background pieces that we're going to use on the scenes that we're going to create. And we're also going to create an ombre look on these as well. We're going to use some distress inks and some ink blending tools. And I have my pieces on my Smart Grid paper pad just to help keep all that ink contained and not get it onto my work surface. And now I'm going to kind of create this ombre look for the grass area first. So to do this one, we're going to use two shades of distress ink. I have Mowed Lawn and Twisted Citron. And what I'm doing is I'm starting with the darker color first, which is the Mowed Lawn at the bottom. And then I am coming in with my Twisted Citron at the top area. And this is just going to create that ombre look because we have the darker color at the bottom and we're letting that fade off into the lighter color at the top. I love using this ombre effect on any type of scene, so like grass or sky or anything like that, because I think it really helps to add the realism to the look rather than just having one color, which kind of makes it look sort of flat. So I did the grass pieces, and now I'm moving on to the sky. And for this one, I wanted to show that you can also create that same ombre look with just one color. So you don't need two colors of distress inks. You can absolutely do this with just the one color. And to do that, it's kind of to do with the pressure that you're using with your ink blending tool. So for the top area, I added a lot of ink, and then I just slowly kind of pulled that ink down into my panel, not adding more ink to the blending tool as I went. So as I pulled the color down, it kind of lightened up as I went and let it fade off into that white. So you can see with the blue, we have just the one color that goes dark and then fades as we go. And then with the grass area, we have the two shades that we have the darker color at the bottom and then the lighter color at the top. So now I want to figure out exactly what I want to do with these pieces to create my scene. So I've picked out the pig images that I want to use on my cards, and I'm just kind of figuring out what stitch basic edge die I want to use to create the grass. I decided to use the same one on both of them, so it's the slight arch shape, and I've cut out the grass detail from each end of that panel that we created. I've also cut all of these pieces out of the stitch rectangle from Blueprints 13 just to give them a nice finished edge. I decided I wanted to add a little bit more detail to the sky area on both of these cards. So for this first one here, I'm using the Starry Sky vertical stencil, and I've laid that over top of my panel, and I'm adding the exact same color of distress ink over top. And I'm making sure to keep that ombre effect by going darker at the top and letting the color kind of fade off as we go towards the bottom. And now you can see I have this great starry sky, I have my grass detail, and I have my piggy. So I have the ombre detail in the sky with one ink color, I have the ombre detail in the grass with two ink colors, and then I have the ombre detail on the pig with our Copic markers, and we've used 4 shades of pink to achieve that look. Now to create the sentiment on this card, I've decided to cut out this really bold word stars from the Shining Stars Die-namics, and I want to put that down in the grass underneath the piggy. Now this grass piece was a little bit too short. I want the entire word to be in the grass piece, so I ended up cutting out another one that has more area on the bottom, and now my star word fits perfectly in there. So I'm going to switch that out and use the larger one rather than the smaller one I was originally going to use. To create my secondary sentiment, I've cut out a strip of black licorice cardstock, and I'm stamping the Reach for the, which is the sentiment from the Written in the Stars stamp set. And I've stamped that with Versamark ink on my black cardstock strip, and I'm heat embossing that with white embossing powder. I love the look of the white against the black, especially when it's embossed. It really makes that sentiment pop. I also have a couple of the silver glitter stars that I cut out when I cut out the word stars, and I'm also going to be adding those to the design as well. I kind of want it to look like the piggy is reaching and actually coming close to grabbing some of those stars. I just thought it played nicely with the design. So now that I have all of the pieces together, I know what I want to do with the design. I'm going to go ahead and start to adhere everything down. So I first adhered the grass piece to the card base, and I'm keeping everything completely flat. I'm not adding any dimension to this card at all. So I'm adding some tape runner detail to the back of this die cut word, and then I'm going to position that down in the grass. And like I mentioned earlier, because we changed that grass piece and made it a little bit bigger, I'm able to fit the entire word right in the grass area. I was originally going to put the piggy in the center area of the little hill he's standing on, but I decided to kind of position him over to the right so that we can add the rest of the sentiment on the left-hand side of the panel. So I adhered him down on the grass, and I decided to keep him above the grass detail. I didn't want to tuck him down in it. And then I'm going to add the little stars around him and the sentiment strip. So for the star detail, I added one of the stars almost touching his hand, like it's falling down and he's almost reaching it. And then I added the other two up in the top left area of the card just to kind of add to that sky scene. Once I had the stars positioned, I decided I wanted a little bit more shine on this, so I'm taking some glossy accents and I'm just adding a little bit of glossy accents over each of those 3 glitter stars that we created. So not only are we going to have the glitter underneath, but we're also going to have that nice glossy finish over top on those stars. I'm going to finish this card by adding my finished panel to a top folding grout gray card base, which measures 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, which is an A2 size card. And now we have our first completed card with our ombre effect in the sky, the ground, and on the piggy. Now for the second card, we're going to kind of stay with the same idea. We're going to use some glitter cardstock to create our sentiment and have a secondary sentiment as well. So for this one, I want to add some more detail to the sky once again, but I'm going to use the cloud stencil to add the detail to this one. So I'm taking that stencil and I'm going from the bottom to the top, and I'm making sure to go with a really light hand at first because I don't want to lose the ombre effect that we've created in the sky. So as I add the ink to my ink blending tool, I kind of take some of it off when I'm at the bottom just to kind of remove some of that ink and keep it a little bit lighter. And then as I work my way up towards the top, I really saturate that look and get that really nice dark cloud image. So you can see there we have this nice detail in the sky, and it's not as flat looking as it was when we started because we've added the cloud detail. I adhered the grass detail to the bottom, and now we're going to work on the sentiment. So once again, I'm stamping that secondary sentiment onto a black piece of cardstock, and I've kind of masked off part of the sentiment because I don't want the whole entire thing. All I want is "Oh joy, it's your," because I have the birthday in the silver glitter cardstock at the bottom. So I stamped that out and heat embossed it once again, and I trimmed down that little sentiment strip. And then I adhered the birthday to the grass area at the bottom and adhered both of the piggies to our little hill. And then once that's done, I added some sequins to this one for a little bit more detail. And now we have 2 finished cards that have the same ombre detail in all of the different pieces, but we have a different card design and sentiment on each of these different cards. So I hope you will give this activity a try. If you would like to take part in today's craft, then just go ahead and create a card that features ombre in some way. It can be with inking or markers or however you'd like, and link it up in the blog post that I have in the description down below. And we will see you tomorrow for more camp fun.